We've covered a lot of unreliability and reliability on this channel, but in today's video I wanted to go into some sports cars and what are some of the most unreliable sports cars or somewhat luxury-ish cars that you can buy on the market that you're going to want to have fun on a weekend. And as long as they don't burn and break down, that's all good, right? So, hope you enjoyed today's video. Let's jump straight into it. And for the first car, I have decided to go for one that you're probably very familiar with at this stage, and it is the Mazda RX8. And as much as I do love this car, it was really unfortunate that Mazda made it so unreliable because it had the rotary engine from the RX7, which Mazda thought would be a great idea to keep it going. Well, unfortunately, that didn't really work, and it's hard to find an RX8 that actually works quite well. And as long as it's been looked after the ride life, then yes, it's fine. Most are pretty short, like the old versions. Now, they do look cool. They've got the cool suicide doors, and they are kind of rare. You don't see many of them. Well, unfortunately, the inline 4 engine, which came with the car, was rather... firstly, not very powerful, given it's 1.3, but also it just didn't have the reliability. You just had to keep looking after it, and the engine was the biggest issue in most cases, pretty much with transmission. If you do want to buy one, they're pretty cheap for £2,000. At number 2, we have another car that I absolutely adore, and it is the Alfa Romeo Brera. Now, I don't know if you can call this a sports car per se, but I'm going to put it on here because pretty much any Alfa Romeo, as we all know as car enthusiasts, are hideously unreliable, and there is no exception with the Brera. And because it's kind of like a sporty looking car, I thought I'd include it. Now, I think it's one of the most beautiful cars that has been made, maybe bar the back end, but in fairness, this car I would love to own regardless of the reliability issues. But it was a big issue, and to be honest, there's another reason why I don't see many of these. Despite being an amazing interior and sounding great, the car had a lot of issues, again, with the engine, not mainly just the electrics in the thing, because all Italian cars like this had issues where the services and timing change just completely broke on everything, and electric-wise, obviously, that one never worked, and pretty much if you ever left it for any time, it would just break. So Alfa Romeo Breras really had to be looked after before you do it, and sometimes a whole engine rebuild was in need and would cost a hell of a lot of money. But I think it would be worth it. These cars are absolutely beautiful, and I do love an Alfa Romeo Brera, and they still hold a fair bit of value at around £7,000. Number 3 brings us a very expensive car, and this time it is a little bit different. It's the BMW Z4, the brand new version that recently came out in the last few years, and while I do actually quite like this car, there is some issues with it, and it kind of relates to another car, and you'll probably be not so surprised about what it is, and it is, of course, the Toyota Supra, which does share a lot of platforms and components with the car. Even though the Toyota is probably a bit more reliable, the BMW had a bit more issues when it came to its faults, which were a whole host of things from overheating, engine area issues with the oils, engine rattles, coolant loss, and just generally costing owners a lot of issues, which in its short time wasn't ideal. Now, despite being a luxury car and looking fairly nice, for a £50,000 price point, I do think that was a bit not of a great idea, not great from BMW at its time. And to be fair, this had several issues from just so many little things you could not even name. But unfortunately, this is the way it went, and you don't really see many of them. And as you can see, BMW are packed with tech now, so there's a lot that could go wrong, really, the more modern a car gets. Now, if you are interested in one of these, I do think they look great. Don't forget they share the same platform as Toyota Supra, so they are very similar in price points, but they do come at a bit more of a higher price at over £50,000. Up next, we have the Fiat 124 Spider, a car I actually do quite like, depending on whether it's the Abarth model, but for the most part, this really covers both of these cars, because unfortunately, as with any Italian brand, really, such as Maserati that comes to mind, Fiat also have a lot of issues when it comes to reliability, even like Alfa Romeo, and unfortunately, the 124 Spider hasn't fared well according to the What Car surveys, which has a reliability rating of 84.5. I'll leave a link in the below, but pretty much 33% of these ran into issues according to their surveys, which pretty much were, again, as you'd expect, electrical bugs from the Italians, which we would expect no less. But I do think the car looks really great nonetheless. But what does it mean for its actual maintenance of the engine? Well, for the most part, it was alright, but they did have some severe faults if they did go wrong in the engine, which was fairly an issue when it came to its little engine, which is a 1.5, and they're still expensive at around 12 to 14k. As I like to put things in top 5s on this channel, I have gone for the final car, which is a Porsche Cayman, being a surprise for most people. And it is a German manufacturer. Not only does the Cayman cost a lot to fix when it goes wrong, but it's also going to take a lot of time to fix. And you've probably heard that from Porsche dealers over the years, that Porsche is a great brand to buy, of course, but the price of maintenance is very heavy, and it will set you back quite a lot on your wallet. Now, according to the survey, 53% of 718s, which is what they're now known as well as Cayman, went wrong, and this was anywhere from bodywork to suspension to gearbox. Now, if it was a gearbox, the Cayman has a very advanced gearbox, so that is going to cost a lot as long as you are in covered and in warranty. So, not forgetting in the older Caymans, if you went for one of those, the engine is in a weird place. So, if you can see in this video, it's of course in the back, sort of mid-engine, almost rear engine, but it's behind the seats in the boot. Really awkward place to get to. So, obviously, labour is going to add up there. Most of the costs for the Caymans were over £1,500, and they took over a week or more to fix, which is quite a lot for a Porsche. But obviously, it is a high-end spec Porsche, but still at the minimum price point of entry. So, unfortunately for the new Cayman, it hasn't fared well. And as you can see, here's a price of about 30k for a used one. And if you want to go for an older one, there's still about 10 to 12k. I just want to finish with some honourable mentions, and as with every video, there is no exception. In today's cars, we have the BMW M4, which had some reliability issues in fairness, which were quite a lot, and obviously had to include the Toyota Supra, which was related to BMW Z4, and finally the Lotus Elise, which of course is well known for Lotus breaking down, lots of trouble, usually serious. Hope you enjoyed the video, everyone. I'll see you guys in the next one. I'm Castle Ben.